Hello, welcome back everyone. So today is another Leetcode daily. This is Pascal's triangle. So what we have to do in this, we are given integer numRows, return the first numRows of Pascal's triangle. So here we are given a certain value, which is the number of rows, and we have to return the output of the vector in each rows. So what is Pascal's triangle? So what we observe from here is first row is 1. So you can see in the observation, first row is 1, second row is 1 1, third row is 1 2 1. Yeah. Fourth row is 1 3 3 1. Now how these values are coming? So the first observation we see is that the size of vector in each row. So in each row, the vector we are getting this vector. The size of each vector is equal to the row number. That is, in the first row, we obtain the vector of size 1. In the second row, we obtain the vector of size 2. In the third row, it's 3. In the fourth row, it's 4. Similarly, in the fifth and sixth rows, the vector obtained is 5 and 6. Here in the constraints it's written that the maximum numRows we can get is of 30. Okay. So how to solve this? So the main observation here is the first and last elements in each row, as you can see, is 1. And only the digits changing are the mid digits. Now how to find out those middle digits? Suppose we come to the third row. So what we see in the third row, 0th index and the 0 index is 1, first index is 2, and the second index is 1, starting with the 0 index rather. Okay. So first and the last element of this vector is 1. Now coming to the first index, which is 2. How we get that 2? So this is, we are getting from a formula that for remaining elements, current row I, that is whichever row we are at, for that particular index, we calculate using the previous row, that index minus 1 value, and the previous row, that particular index value. The summation of both will result in the current row, that index. Suppose in the third row, for the first element, means for the first index element, 1th index, we have 2. That we are getting from the previous row, means the second row. Now this is the first index element is 2. So then the previous row, 1 minus 1, that is 0. So 0th index is 1 and 1 first index is 1. So 1 plus 1 we are getting 2. And that is the reason why we are getting 2 in the third row. Similarly in the fourth row, if you come to see the 0th index and the last index is 1 and 1. But coming to the first index, we have 3. Now, how this 3 is coming? We are moving to the previous row, which is the third row. So, in the third row, if we are calculating the first index of the fourth row, we are seeing the 0th index and the first index of the third row, which is 1 and 2. So, summation of 1 and 2 gives us 3. Now coming to the second index of the fourth row, it will be the summation of first and second index of the third row, which is 2 plus 1 equals to 3. Similarly, in the fifth row, if we come to this particular second index, so the second index of fifth row will be the summation of 2 minus 1, that is first index from the fourth row, and second index from the fourth row. So that is 3 plus 3. So that is 3 plus 3, 6. So this is how we are getting this. So suppose you have to see one more example in the sixth row. We have this value 10. It is at what index? 0, 1, 2 and 3. So in the third index we have 10. So this 10 is coming from the second index plus the third index of the fifth row, which is 6 plus 4. Then that is how we are getting 10 here. And this is the observation. So let's discuss the algorithm. So algorithm is, we have to make an answer vector. So we have to make a vector answer which will store all the row vectors and that particular vector we will return it. Then for the first index, the first row, that is the very first row which contains only one value 1, so that we will push back. And from this particular row, we will calculate the next rows. So it is like iterating one by one over all the rows. Then we will start a for loop from 2. Why from 2? Because the first row we have already stored. So we will start from the 2 until you obtain the numRows. That is, till you reach the all rows, till you calculate for all the rows. Now, we are starting from 2 till you calculate all the rows. Now, at each iteration of this, what we have to do, we have to extract the last vector of the answer. Means, we have to pop back or we have to extract the last vector which was stored in answer. Suppose for the third row, we need the second row, right? For the third row calculation, we need the second row. For the fifth row calculation, we need the fourth row. So that is why we are extracting the previous row, that is the last vector, from the answer array vector itself, and then we will be making a current vector which will store the current row vector. Okay, so that will be storing. Now this current vector size will be 1 greater than the previous row. How? You see, for the third row, we have we have a size of 3 vector. So since we are extracting the previous row to find out the third row, now previous row will have 2 size vector. So the third row vector will be of previous row size plus 1. So this is why current row vector size will be 1 more than the last vector which we extracted. Now we will create a current vector. Then for each index of the current vector, we will calculate using this particular formula. Okay, and the first and last elements will be 1. Then after calculation of the current vector, we are storing this current vector to the resultant array, that is the answer array. And at the end, after iterating through all the rows, we will just return the answer array. Let me just start with this. So let's make this algorithm come up. Wait. Okay, just look at this algorithm and we'll do it. So the first thing is create answer vector. So we will have to create an answer vector. So this is the answer vector we have created. Okay. Now push back the first row vector. So answer dot push back 1. So this is the first row which we got that contains only one element, that is 1. Now we have to start a loop from index 2. What is this? Is the row 2, right? Till we reach the last row which is possible, less than equal to numRows. Now again, if there has to be a condition, if numRows equal to 1. If they asked only first index, then you return the answer here only. Okay. So now coming to here, for I equals 2, we are going through all the rows. Now what we have to do? We have to extract the last vector. So vector int previous equal to, how will we extract? There's a function which is dot back. So this will extract the last vector, that is 1 currently. For I equals to 2, it will extract the first row and it will store it in previous. Now we are creating a new vector current and it will be of size previous dot size plus 1. And for now, let us store all the elements 1. And why are we doing this? Because the first and last elements are always 1. And for the other than the first and last, that is starting from 1, because 0th index and the last index. So starting from 1, we are iterating to the current vector and we will calculate all the values. Starting from 1 to current dot size minus 1. Okay, j plus plus. And now, since we are iterating through all, we have to store the values. So current j will be equal to previous of j minus 1 plus previous of j. Okay, so this was the formula, and after calculation, we are storing it in answer dot push back current, and you are returning answer. So let's see if this works. Okay, so let's submit it. So that works and it beats 100% 0 ms runtime. So this is the best optimized solution possible here. Since the number of rows is also less, that is 30. So this is the best solution possible. So the time complexity here will be big of n square. Why? Because you are iterating through two loops. But yeah, n be the number of rows. That's somehow the worst case time complexity. And the space complexity is, see, you are creating a vector to store the previous row, you are creating a vector to store the current row, and you are also creating a vector to return the answer. But this answer vector will store like space of big of n square. But these vectors will store big of n because they are vector n, right? So since this answer vector is required in the question and we are just returning it, so we don't need to count that. So I'll just say big of n. So this is the solution and the optimized solution. That's it for today. Let's meet for tomorrow. Thank you everyone.